start the recording here, and then it'll just be a minute or so while I'm looking for stuff to talk about, right? Same as last time.
I want to hug you like big, fuzzy Siberian bear. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attack commencing.
So, just bear with me, YouTube, while we're just looking for something to talk about. Just might be a minute or so.
Take your medicine.
Yeah, so right now we're just kind of sitting around our goal. Oh, stop! I was pressing the wrong button. So right now we're just kind of sitting around. Our goal should probably be to like get up next to them, right? We kind of want to get closer. Going left side, right side, going underneath them, right? Just kind of getting up closer to where we can actually do things. Maybe like contest the Widowmaker or whatnot. Alright, so there we just stayed in there way too long. So we just barely missed the Mercy with the dash, and that was a good dash. She just kind of got around the corner. But the issue was that after we missed it, we were like 60 HP, which is way too low, like, too low for comfort there. And instead of trying to run away, we just kept trying to right click and fight and stay in there. And we kind of backed up like after like 10 seconds, which just isn't what we wanted to be doing, right? Instead we wanted to be backing up right away, which would have potentially let us get out there, right? So just watch your health bar, make sure escaping when we can.
That was gonna be something I talked to you about, because I never really know if I should like try to commit and get the kill, or
you'd only commit.
Or just run.
Yeah, usually surviving is going to be the best thing you could probably go for most of the time. The only time you'd commit for the kill is if you have like an opportunity to go off of, right? Where like maybe Mercy's still 1 HP and you can maybe get the kill, right, off of her.
Damn it.
Awareness, right? Listening, watching for him. Also, again, there we were just kind of sitting on in the front, right? They just, Genji doesn't want to sit there and spam from distance. That's not how his kit works. He's not a spam character. He wants to go in and do things so he can get ult charge, so he can, actually get picks and damage. So right now we want to get past the choke and go in on things like the squishy targets, right? Like the Widowmaker, the Mercy, the Ana, Junkrat, right? We want to get in on top of those guys, not just sitting at the choke. So we'd be going bottom left, bottom right, exactly what we did before by just going in. By going in like underneath. When we're out in the open, we gotta watch for the Widowmaker. If she's looking straight at us, we can deflect, and that can keep us alive longer. We can potentially even kill her with that, and just that's gonna stop her from shooting at us. Also, just want to use cover, like instead of being on the open, we can dash over to use cover properly, right?
Nanoboost administered. 30 seconds.
No one can hide from my sight.
Fire at will.
I am claiming the objective.
Personne n'échappe à mon regard.
Sniper.
Oh shit.
Make sure we're listening. She did have sights there, right? So we know that she's like, if she just popped sights, I mean, she's probably sitting down that way, about to shoot you in the face. So we gotta make sure we're watching out for that. And just Widowmaker's been getting us a lot. So when we're up against Widowmaker, she can't kill us if we're using cover properly, right? And when you do come out in the open, make sure you're using your deflect. That's gonna make it so that she can't actually shoot at us. Just we want to make sure we're paying attention to her because she has killed us a couple times here. Okay, we're holding on to our ultimate for a little bit. Like, we've had it for 2 fights now, so in this next fight, we want to make sure we're actually using that and we're not holding on to it. They don't have any ultimates that can, like, really counter it too hard, so we just want to be going for it and looking for it and not just sitting around.
My ultimate is charged. Attack with me.
Sombra online.
Yes. My ultimate is ready. Get in
My
there and
ultimate
I will
is
boost you.
charged.
Done.
Attack with me.
I have found the enemy. Come and face me.
You're powered up. Get in there.
Pretty solid blade.
Enemy returns. Sniper, be wary.
Routing forward. Forward send.
Nice health pack grab. Okay, pretty solid blade. One of the bigger things is just, again, just the fact that we held on to it for 2 fights before that. And then besides that, with our blade, probably could have gone for the more grouped up side. Like, I think there were more people on the left side than there were on the right side. So when we went for our blade, probably could have, like, dashed up out in the open. And then, like, you know, when you use your ultimate, you get a second dash, so we can, like, kind of double dash across the big gap of the middle and then get over to, like, the side that has more people at it instead of going for the Junkrat, right? That's just an option we could have gone for there.
30 seconds remaining.
The objective is mine. Be quick about it.
Okay, so there we deflected the sleep, and then we just kind of walked away from the Ana, right? That's a
I don't know
very,
why I did that.
yeah,
I don't know.
super
I'm just
easy
out of
kill
it
to.
today.
Yeah, you're fine. So if you feel like you're playing worse than usual, we we could go over a replay if you'd like to. That way you know don't have to we don't have to play when you're doing extra bad. And we can go over some games that you actually did decent in. So, but yeah, there obviously just want to make sure you're killing the Ana.
I just feel I don't know. I feel like I was just warming up. Like it's the first game. I'm still in like work mode.
Yeah.
Of the game.
So it's up to you. We can
Yeah.
keep going here, or we can
Let's
just
give
do a
it another
replay.
shot, yeah. Because
Okay.
I looked through my replays and like I mean I've got one. Actually, yeah, we could do that. That works.
Okay.
Because I'm not playing very well today.
Yeah, that's fine.
Uh, share.
Okay, I'm streaming. All right.
To Numbani. Ready for battle.
Let me exit out of my. There.
Okay, so in game we are not loaded in, I don't think. So yeah, there we go.
For battle.
It's like I don't see our name here.
5,
So we're playing Echo here. Are we wanting to go over Echo?
I play. Am I muted right now? I can't tell.
No, I can hear you.
Okay. I play Echo and Kree in this, but I would probably rather go over the Kree stuff.
Okay, well then I can skip forwards a little bit then.
1.
Let's see, when do we swap? Looks like we swapped this rounds. So there we go. Thought I changed the spectator options to 5 minutes, but I guess it.
I feel like it resets. I do the same thing.
But I'm confused though because it translated to other. I was just messing around with those options but it translated earlier when I swapped between games. So I wonder if it's like a time limit until it resets.
Defend objective.
That's weird. All right. See, go and do what your team's doing. Just spam at them as they're coming out here, right? That just gets us some extra ult charge, right? Like if we look at our currently, okay, I guess none of them hit anything, but They could have potentially hit something, and then none of them just all of them missed every single shot. But that can get you up 20% ult charge even at the very beginning, which could potentially make the difference between winning the first fight or not. And then that could mean the difference between getting a snowball advantage, right? So it's pretty important that we make sure we're actually going and doing that.
If I recall, the reason I did it was because their hog was landing a lot of hooks, and our Rhine was pretty lackadaisical about it, and I think I was scared of being over there.
Yeah, I mean, like it's so far away that you should be able to see the hog coming. Like, look at this distance between here and where they're at. That's very much outside of the hook range. And if we see a hog is about to hook us, we have cover we can use, back up away from it, and we can just back up and go back. So I wouldn't say it's too dangerous as long as you're just paying attention. We can only get hooked if we really let hog hook us. Now, that's not true all of the time, but for the most part, most hooks can be blocked if we're using cover usage properly, and just canceling the hooks or just not letting him hook us. Oh, launch drop from high ground there. Okay, so looks like we just missed a bunch of shots there. Mechanically, we just need to hit them. The other thing is just firing at a faster rate. So, like for example, here we had we just fired faster, I think we could actually have killed her right here as we hit her. So we hit her with a headshot here. And had we followed this up immediately with a second body shot, that would have killed her. But instead, we followed up slightly late, and then that means that she gets healing in time. So keep in mind that, I mean, maybe we talked about that last. Did we? I don't think we went over McCree. Did we go over McCree last time?
We did,
We did.
and that was part of it. But
Yeah.
I'm should I? Okay, so the
Yep.
thing is, when I'm doing that, I feel like my accuracy just goes way down. Like I'm just not landing nearly as many. So
Which
do I
is
go work on speeding up the shots I'm landing, or do I just work on firing at that rate and adjusting?
So keep in mind that accuracy is not an end all be all to pay attention to. Neither is stats in general. If something's lowering your stats, such as your accuracy, that's not always going to mean that that's a bad thing. You can have like a 80% accuracy on McCree and lose the game because you're barely ever shooting and you're not getting kills as a result. You're just going for the easy shots. You're going for the shots that are
Right.
most likely to hit. When you lower your fire rate on McCree, you're going to be less able to actually secure the kills. Whereas here again, let's look at us shooting at the Pharah. We hit her with let's see how many shots we hit her with. We hit 1, 2, 3. Right, those shots, if done in a row, is enough to kill the Pharah, right? But because it's not done in a row, it doesn't kill her, right? So it's just, again, and then maybe we're slightly out of range, and that might have been why I took 4 shots as well. But just shooting at that faster rate is what you're going to want to get used to, because if you're getting used to shooting at a slower fire rate, you're going to kind of fall into that bad habit. I'd probably say get in the habit of learning how to shoot at that faster fire rate, and then that's going to allow you to improve at that better than if you're trying to just hit every single shot you're shooting. So yes, you still want to practice on your and focus on your aim, but you probably want to be just shooting a little bit faster, because that potentially could have gotten the kill on the Pharah there twice had we just been shooting at a faster rate and then also hitting more shots, right?
Echo here. Objective lost. Stop the payload.
Die healer.
Moving up.
Hey, there. I'm not too sure what we were looking for. I think maybe we're looking for the Pharah.
The Pharah, yeah.
Yeah, so then in that case, we just want to make sure we're being aware, right, of 2 things. First off, audio awareness, and second off, visual awareness. Like here, first off, we can see Pharah shooting shots like we can see the bullets that she's shooting in from that direction, right? And then we see again another explosion that comes from that direction, another explosion that comes from that direction. And then we can also hear Farah on our left shooting, right? So just that audio awareness of like listening to where she's at. We can hear her, like, her jets. We can hear her shooting. Yeah, we're kind of looking over to the right. So it's just, that should hopefully be something that we're aware of in game. Yeah, that's just working on our awareness, right? Okay. Make sure the in between fights that we're repositioning the high ground. We never repositioned and took the high ground, right? Might have talked about that last time, but just high ground's fantastic positioning, right? That we probably talked about that last time. Want to make sure that in between fights we're taking high ground because that's going to allow us to contest the Pharah better and easier, as well as it's going to get us closer to her, and it's going to just overall give us better positioning. Whereas here we're just kind of sitting on the ground level.
Eventually, all become one with the universe.
Okay, nice.
So like right now, would it have been better, like instead of like pushing up right there and trying to help secure those kills, would it have been better for me to just like turn left and just go get high ground?
No, because you rotate in between fights, not during fights, right? This is not in between fights. This is while the fight is happening. You don't make long rotations while the fight is happening. You make them when you have a bunch of time to spare, right? So in between the fights, when you've won this fight, you're gonna have like a whole 20 seconds while they're respawning and grouping up, and during that time, you can take all the time you want to rotate to the high ground, where the high ground's gonna be your best positioning. But right now, while the fight's currently happening, if you take if we just went left side and rotated to the high ground, it would first off, this high ground isn't super next to them, so like it wouldn't be like I'd say it'd be like it'd be good to be at, but like sorry, in any case, right, it would just probably take us like 10, 12 seconds to do that rotation, and in that time, our team could be losing the fight, right? They could get picks and be at an advantage because essentially we'd just be putting ourselves down a player during that time, and it'd be as if we were dead, right? Because we're not doing anything, we're not participating. So not in the middle of fights, but yes, in between fights. Very nice.
Doctor.
I will keep you here.
So like,
So like right now would be a good
yeah,
time.
so like right now would be decent time too, because like the fights, like we're kind of waiting for some of our players. We're not necessarily pushing at the moment. We have a stairwell like right next to us, so this would probably be a little bit faster of a rotation. And we also then the other one would be, and then on top of that, we're just like during this time period we have like it's the fight's not as much going on. Right now, it's a little bit, now it's starting to pick up, right? Ultimates are flying. They just got your Zarya. That's a little bit different. Okay, I'm noticing it a lot still. It's just, to keep working on it is cover usage, as I'm noticing a lot of us
Yeah,
just walking on the open,
embarrassing.
right? So just making sure we're watching that and using cover properly. Okay, alright. Yeah, so being high ground here would probably be the best place to be. Do we, just to confirm, because we're not taking high ground a lot here, we talked about the reasons for that, yeah?
Yeah.
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 Mhm. Just making sure. Just we went over it.
No, yeah, it's all clear to me. Like watching it, I almost know exactly what you're gonna say when you say
Yeah.
it. I'm like, oh, I was scared no one was gonna contest. I think, and like, I thought our Anna was for sure gonna die,
Which in
and
this
we didn't have.
situation, like we have this is a lost fight. We have two decisions. We can get out, or we can just go in to point and let them kill us. So this isn't terrible of a decision, but I mean we could also maybe have gone out there.
The payload has reached the checkpoint.
Back into. It's time.
Okay, pretty nice, High Noon. focus the Reinhardt who's on the ground and sleeping, and it doesn't seem as though we're noticing him there. Right, just focus him while he can't move around. I'm noticing quite a lot of just like tank shooting, which just means maybe we're not taking the best positioning or
Yeah.
focusing the other guys.
I think I was tilted and going
Mm.
after this hog at this point. Now I'm like, this is just bad.
I'm
Yep.
on
So
fire.
just is tilt queuing something you think that you struggle with a little bit?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
So did we talk on that at all last time?
No.
No, okay, so let's talk about on that then. First off, just don't. Okay, so when it comes to
Yeah.
tilt queuing, typically I don't know why, but my background there's a computer just making a dinging sound over and over again. But I'm gonna have to get to that in a moment. In any case, like tilt queuing, right? Making sure we're setting a limit on our gameplay. So let's say, for example, we win 15 games and we lose 15 games. I just had this conversation with somebody the other day, so it's just a fresh example in my mind. Right? You win 15 games and then you just lose 15 games in a row. Don't lose 15 games in a row. You want to intentionally, basically, what's the word for that? You want to make the game think you're better than you are by essentially playing when you're good, not playing when you're bad. Don't intentionally play while you're in a bad mindset or a bad mood or whatever, or you're losing. Because when you're losing, or you're in a bad mood, or you're tired, or you're upset about anything, or you're tilted, you're probably gonna lose, right? It's almost guaranteed. There's like an 80% chance that you're gonna lose when you're in one of those moods, and that's why you can go on big long losing streaks, is because that happens, right? When you lose, you keep losing. So what you do is you put a limiter on. I'm only gonna play, like, for example, 3 games in a row, right? I'm gonna play, and if I lose those 3 games in a row, right, then I'm done and I take a break. You can take like a 30-minute break. You can take like an hour break. This can get you a mental reset, help you, kind of get a refresh going. Then you can get back into it. If you keep losing after you get back into it, then just be done for the day. And or if you really want to keep playing, you can get a second account and play on the second account where you don't really care about the SR, right? If you want to like keep practicing or playing, or just go to quick play or something like that. Playing something that's non-competitive. Go to open queue, something like that, something you don't care about. Right? Then that's just all different options you can do it. But then when you're winning, play as much as possible, right? Play extra amount when you feel you're doing really good, because you want to basically make how you're going to, one of the better ways to climb is to make the game think you're better than you are, by playing when you're feeling good and not playing when you're feeling bad. Because if you're playing all the time when you're feeling bad, it's gonna kind of even out for when you're feeling good. If you don't play when you're feeling bad, then you have the times where you're feeling good, the times where you're feeling average, and then you don't really have the times where you're feeling bad. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Yep, and then that can help you climb an SR, and then once you've climbed an SR, and then like just the pure fact of climbing an S, or the pure climbing an SR will also just improve your gameplay, because once you climb an SR, you're going to be facing harder opponents, you're going to be getting more challenges, you're going to be seeing other people that you can copy and do things that, like, the good things that they're doing. So the higher and higher you climb, the better you're going to be getting, even if it's somewhat artificially inflated. But it's still a very good idea not to queue while you're like that. Oh yeah, it sounds like the dinging stopped. It was like the computer behind me was getting notifications like 20 times in a row. Alright, so here we're just, getting some poke damage, and that's fine. Little bit out in the open, far out in the open, probably shouldn't be this far forwards. Oh, and then that gets us killed, right? Get just way too aggressive. Look
I
at how
was
we're,
trying to flashbang.
yeah.
It's not my job to protect him, but I don't know. I just
It's
did.
the initial positioning is the issue, right? It's not necessarily the issue that we roll into hog. Maybe like for example, we could have rolled like to the left and then flashed them. Like, I don't. Let's rewatch that for half a second. We just go back 5 seconds. So we're shooting at the hog, right? He gets a hook. Maybe we could have like rolled this way while we're going in and then flashed him or something like that, just to like get used cover a little bit better. But us and Zenyatta shouldn't have been there, and because that hook could have just as easily been us. Instead of we want to be further back using cover properly, like right here, for example, right, where we can just go like this, can't see us. Now in the open where there's no cover anywhere, right? No cover at all over here. So we want to make sure we're using cover more properly, and then we die trying to save them. Don't want to suicide to try to save teammates. That's something just to keep in mind.
Nano boost administered.
Real quick.
Openness, yeah.
Oh, no, this is fine. There's honestly, keep in mind as well that there's sometimes where being out in the open doesn't matter, right? So think, you're walking out of spawn and the round hasn't begun. What that doesn't matter if the round doesn't, like, what does it matter if you're using cover if the round hasn't begun yet? There's nobody there to shoot at you. Here, there's nobody here to shoot at us. We're just walking back to the fight, so it doesn't matter if we're out in the open and not using cover, because who are we going to be using cover against, right? You need to be using cover against people, not using cover against nothing. So in this situation, we can cross as much open area as we want to get to the fight if the fight is happening over here. But once we get to the fight, then we need to use cover, right? We shouldn't just be using. Yeah,
So
does that
what
make
would I
sense?
use for, yeah, so the fight's happening over there right
Mhm.
now. Like, should ideally, like, do I want to try to, like, use the payload or, like, this wall, I
Yeah, you can.
guess?
So you can use the payload, you can use this corner. Looks like Reinhardt. Oh, he's a nano. Probably die, maybe not. Depends here. Probably, like, yeah, like you're dead on, right? Corner payload. If you wanted to when you're coming out of spawn, maybe could have come out right side. Like when we're coming out of spawn, like let's see. While we are walking back, right?
I do remember thinking, like, I
Mm,
didn't know which way to go. Like,
yeah.
I was like, should I go to the right and try to pick off the
So
support, or will that get me killed, or...
in this instance, this is a rough one because it looks like they push in. So I think honestly it's fine to come in from the main. He got aggressive after he started pushing. Once I saw him charge in, then maybe I would change my course and I would stop going main and instead I'd go right side, because once you see Reinhardt in there, you can maybe make the assumption, okay, more of the fight's going to be happening around this area, right? And your Reinhardt's in there as a distraction, right? So you can get away with that flank a little bit better. So that's honestly might not be a bad play, though it's not terrible to go through main. Though we are playing pretty far back here. Reinhardt's in there look at stuff's happening, but we're just kind of chilling down main, not
I
really
don't...
doing much.
So I don't know what to do
Mm.
here. Like, because I just saw that, oh, actually, never mind. I should have known. On that kill feed, we were up.
Mm.
I was thinking the inverse, because blue, but...
Yeah, yeah, you're right. That gets confusing in replays. But yeah, we're very far up here, right? And we're just kind of chilling. We probably could have been doing stuff, so our team kind of carried that fight.
Long overdue.
So there you start to see some like actions per minute stuff, right? Have we talked about that before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Last time, so actions per minute, just not taking
I,
random pauses and breaks in between stuff.
I've been keeping that in mind. I
Mm.
promise you, I'm showing you a game where I'm making a lot of mistakes because it's sloppy, but because that's what I will want the most feedback on. But
Yeah, well,
that
I mean,
APM is like something that I didn't think about at all before you, and I feel like it's making a change in my games too. Just an amount of like shield break and like if nothing else, just
mm,
making people feel threatened.
more
Um,
damage, more pressure, more shield break, more kills, right? That's what actions per minute does for you, right? Just is more of everything. Um, so just so you're aware for replay wise, because you said this is like a game where you feel like you did worse. Typically, you want to go over a game where you played averagely, not worse, because if you're playing worse, those like and I didn't send you those criteria. Usually, I send those criteria to people who who say like I want to do a replay, right?
mhm.
Not so this wasn't really planned, but in any case, like just so you're aware, typically you want a close game, right, where it wasn't a roll on either side, which that looks like this is so far, right, is a close game. But you also want a game where you didn't really do particularly terrible, because if you're doing worse than usual, that's not really the mistakes you're making most of the time, right? Whereas if you're making, if you're, and then if you do super good, then you're not making as many mistakes as you usually would. Instead, you want kind of an average gameplay game where you're making the mistakes you would usually make, not any extra, not any, not none, right? So that.
So I think the
Mm,
reason that I had brought this one specifically was I think a lot of what I struggle with in this SR, like I think I'm a lot more aware of what's going on in the team fight stuff when I'm playing support. Like
mm,
my support's plat, but I'm silver and
yeah.
damage. So like the games are different, and the team coordination is different, and there's a lot of things that happen that I just don't know whether I should, like, I don't know what to do. It just feels like it feels so different, like when I have to choose, do I go left or right, because it's like half and half, or or things like that. There's that's the stuff that I truly don't know what to do. I know the
So
stuff that like I need to be working on, like my cover and my mechanics and stuff like that, but like the decision making I struggle with here.
yeah, so you're saying it's a different environment because teams are playing more coordinated in a higher rank?
Yeah, more or less. Just it's a little more like how we talk about like in between fights repositioning and stuff. Like that's
Mhm.
something that I keep in mind very much when I'm like playing like Anna or like my cover is like pretty freaking strong when I'm on Mercy and that type of stuff. But like
Mhm.
because I know when and where like the fights are over is a lot clearer to me. Here
Hmm.
everything just seems a little
Okay, so you feel like it's harder to identify when fights are won and lost, or like when,
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, that's definitely going to be the case because at lower ranks, other people are also terrible at identifying when fights are won and lost, and then therefore because people are bad at that, they're just going to continue to both teams are going to continue to stagger in one by one by one by one, and then that can blur the lines a little bit. But the general rules of what we were talking about with kill feed are mostly going to apply, where like there's going to be lulls in time. It's just gonna be maybe some shorter lulls in time in between fights, where you should be rotating, right?
Oh,
Good.
yeah, I just thought of
Mm-hmm.
an example that I specifically remember thinking I need to ask you about. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so on like control point, say Sanctum,
Mm-hmm.
where there's like a clear choke you can hold after you take the middle point.
Yep.
Um, that doesn't really happen. Like, you don't hold the choke. Like tanks don't hold chokes at this. They just kind of stand on the
Yeah.
point. What do I do as damage there?
Yeah.
Do I
So
like
you would
try to get
probably
poke damage at choke and like get back, or do I just try to
no.
hold point?
You would hold point, and then you'd probably take a like a you wouldn't hold on point with your team. Instead, you would take an off angle, right? We talked about off angles last time, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you take an off angle and go like, for example, right side and take the outside high like ring of the high ground. On top of that, keep in mind that on the other hand, not every team comp is always going to want to hold choke. Now that's something that might not like that's might be even more advanced past platinum, but choke point isn't even something that you're going to hold on every team comp. Mainly, that's going to be what you're holding if you're running a brawl team composition. Whereas if you're running a spam me team composition, which is like think long range characters, then that means that you'd probably be holding on the outside, not on the inside part. So that would be basically just keep in mind for now you if you want to you don't want to position always in the best place possible, right? Just a quote from Jane, an Overwatch League coach, right? He very popular streamer, you probably know him, right?
Hmm.
He says that when one person's being stupid does something stupid, that's called feeding. When six people do something stupid, that's called a strategy. So what you take from that, yeah. So what you take from that is if your entire team is all holding point and you walk forward to hold choke, that's you being stupid because now you're feeding and you're off on your own and you're going to get punished. If you have if you have five people doing something stupid, go be
So
stupid
like
with
more
them.
often than not, what I struggle with is it'll be like 3 and 3.
Mhm.
Like
Well,
three people will
if you go
choke.
for if there's three people at the choke and three people on point, right? If those three people at choke die, then that's just a lost fight, and you didn't participate at all, sitting on point, right? So the best decision there would be to just push up with the people at choke, and then now that means that you're 4 and 2, and it means that it's no longer an even split; it's 4 and 2, and that would also pressure the other two people to move up with you, right? So on top of that, like it's just
That actually makes sense. That
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and you usually if you have like a couple people being stupid, go be stupid with that couple of people. It's not. Oh, it doesn't always have to be five. It could be if basically think of it like this: if one Reinhardt is charging into their team, let them die. You can win the fight without one Reinhardt. If you have three people running into their team at the same exact time, go run in with them because you want to be able to capitalize with them. If you just sit back and do nothing, then you're just gonna lose three teammates and then lose the fight as a result, right? Because you just didn't participate, right? So that's kind of how you would see that, right? Is that's kind of what you're looking at, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
All right.
Gotcha.
So now I was gonna talk about strengths and weaknesses. Why don't we honestly just talk about that at the end since we're already past the halfway point? Okay, we only have another 10 minutes here, so we'll just go for another 10 minutes on the regular stuff. Okay, so we're coming back out here with the high noon.
Tranquility.
Actually, would you mind if we talk about this stuff and I queue up and we go some like live Genji stuff? I feel like my head's in the game now, and I
Okay,
would love some feedback on that.
sounds good. Yeah, just go ahead and we'll talk about strengths and weaknesses while you're getting in queue then. So we talked about mostly McCree, a little bit of Genji, right? So ability usage, Genji, make sure you're using your deflect, and honestly, I'd say deflect. The ability usage is much more important on your Genji. We weren't really using deflect too often against the Widowmaker, particularly. Make sure you're using it to just keep ourselves alive. Dash, use it to cross open areas fast. So like we talked about, cover usage. You don't want to be out in the open for super long, so you can use your dash to close that distance fast. Also, on top of that, make sure you're using dash to finish off. I'd see like once in a while where you just wouldn't use it, so just make sure we're getting better at that as well. And then also capitalizing when Ana sleeping right next to us, right? Now McCree, not a ton with our abilities, so overall I'd probably say just both of them probably like a low to medium priority, not super high up on the list, right? Ultimate usage does need a little bit more. I'd probably say we out of the ones we've used so far, they've gotten decent value. I'd say that we hold on to them slightly too much though. We just kind of go a couple fights without using them before we actually get value out of them. Like this one right here, we've had, for an entire like
You
couple of fights, right? We got it back here, right? So we have it for one fight and then two fights. Right, so we just kind of held on to it for an extra fight, and then we saw that with the blade, and we saw that with the other high noon. So just making sure we're using it much more frequently. On top of that, I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but use it at the beginning of fights. That's going to help you not hold on to it. If you use your ultimates midway or halfway, or at the end of a fight, that can just result in you losing the fight before you get a chance to use it. But instead, look to intentionally use it at the very beginning of fights. By the way, let me know when you get into a game because I'm still sending the replay.
Yeah, I'm watching until it matches.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I
Oh,
wasn't.
no worries, no
Yeah,
worries.
yeah, that's fine. So moving on, mechanics. Oh, sorry. And then so the overall, that's probably going around the same, like a low to medium priority, right? Kind of in that area, same as the other one, right? Mechanics, a little bit higher, right? Just general mechanics still needs a little bit of work. Just because we're not like fully able to constantly get good shots in, right? Want to make sure you're remembering your crosshair placement and getting better with that. Making sure that we're full autoing and not just tap firing, making sure we're keeping him on target priority and shooting at the intentionally focusing the other things, not the tanks, and then actions per minute and make sure we're not taking random pauses, right? So all of that puts mechanics at like a medium priority, maybe medium high, but I think medium for now, right? Positioning and awareness, definitely think are the two big ones. So positioning, making sure we're not out in the open. We're out in the open a lot, right? That just happened. We notice that a lot, and then we get killed as a result. Make sure that we are repositioning in between fights. Make sure that we are taking high grounds more often. I have not seen us take a high ground yet this game that we are in. Making sure that we are trying to, like, in Genji, that we're trying to get in next to them, not standing super far away. So we're intentionally trying to not just sit at the choke, but we're getting in. We're dashing, through past the choke. We're getting in to their left, to the right, to from their behind. And then that's pretty much it.
Should I be
Mhm.
like so what I struggle with there is I don't really know if there's like if I go in before like anyone else is even really trying to. I'm normally pretty scared of surviving.
Yeah, so you
Um
don't want to engage before, but you want to get into a position. So think of it like this: you would get so like the last game that we were in when you were on Horizon, right? You would dash in past the choke, right? So you wouldn't be sitting at choke. You would get in underneath. You'd get in behind them. You'd wait until your team is create being a distraction or whatever, or even like if you're in a good position, You're pretty survivable on Genji. You have some speed. You have your deflect. You have your dash. All you have to do is just you can engage, and then they start shoot. People look at you. If you don't get a kill off of it, you can just deflect out and go grab a health pack, right? Or the big thing is don't go in like 1v6, right? You instead wait for your team to start being a distraction. Try to be a little bit sneaky. Get up behind them or whatever, and then you get a pick. Now you don't want to. Most of the time, you're not going to want to go in 1v6 or 1v3 or 1v or anything like that, right? That's going to just get you killed.
Yeah.
But how you do that is that's still the position you want to take, even if we're coming in from this, even if coming in go ahead.
I just matched, but I'm
Okay.
still listening.
Yeah, so that's the positioning doesn't really change that when we're engaging. We're always engaging with our team, even if we're coming in from the side or from behind. Okay, it's just you want to sync up with them. So that one is looking like probably a medium high priority, and then awareness is paying attention to whether or not we've won or lost the fight, right? Paying attention to let's see what other things. Paying attention to where the FAR is at, audio cues, and watching where people are at, watching where the enemy team is at. And then was there other things in awareness? I feel like there was, and then I'm just forgetting about it.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So for now, I'm just kind of forgetting some of them. So maybe we'll put it at like a medium. But there's probably some more, so probably gonna end up at like a medium high. But for now, we'll put it at a medium, right? Priority.
Attackers incoming.
Just again, make sure you're poking at the very beginning just to get some extra ult charge in. As just you always want to just line it up with the spawn and just like get some extra poke charge in. Okay, nice pick. Okay, there we got a little bit aggressive. Just be careful off of that. Typically, you might want to just poke until you see an opportunity. Genji is a very opportunist character, so he goes in when he sees the opportunity to do something. So, for example, there instead of just going in right away, we can poke from the top here. We can just poke and poke, poke until we see someone who's low or out of position, or something like that. So, like if you get like if Zen's within dash range and you get him to half by poking, then you can dash in and kill him, right?
Oh, she died.
Kill feed, yep. Make sure requesting healing when we're low. That's going to get us healing faster and let them know where we're at. Keep in mind, deflecting fire strikes can be a pretty solid way to get easy damage in. So just watch for that deflect. Nice crosshair placement there. Yep, that was decent.
I am ready. For enemy return. My sights. I require shield.
Okay, so there probably could have dashed out to your window, right? That's probably where you want to be escaping to. That way you can get back to your team, right?
This one?
Yep, exactly right. So like instead of just dashing up to their side to their high ground, on top of that, again, we pushed in before we had a dash available, and just be careful about just going in when you don't have any advantage, because that can just end up getting you killed, especially the higher up in ranks you're at. All right. So you just want to make sure we're looking for opportunities to go in, not just going in off of nothing. And we currently have our blades, so that's something we can be looking for this fight, right?
Want that? Bad blade, I know.
On my way.
Okay, who do we just hear? Walk. There's an echo who like walked it through on your side, right? And we kind of just
Oh,
ignoring
I
it.
thought
So
you meant Mercy.
so we just want to make sure we're paying attention to like, you know, who's flanking and paying attention to the enemy team. Zen keeps sitting alone at main, so it's a very easy kill that we can go for, right? He's an isolated target. That is an opportunity. Alright, so that's an example of an opportunity, right? Zen's just constantly sitting at main. That's a very easy kill we can go for.
10 seconds remaining.
No one can hide from my sight.
Okay, very good. Much better, right? Not than the first game we were in, right? No massive mistakes, and that's, you know, from the fact that we won the game, right, with full holding. So, good game, right? Let's get into the main points in the review. Okay, I am streaming if you'd like to take a look.
And I'm in.
Okay, so let's see, we're on mainly Genji and McCree. So Genji, just I guess we'll go him. So let's start with what was number one. So awareness. Honestly, it's not as wide. Like there's definitely a lot of micro things that go into it, and then the big main one is just watching kill feed and paying attention to that, obviously. But I think that it's hard to say because that was definitely high, but I don't know if I could call it higher than our positioning because I think our positioning might have taken number one there. It's hard to say though. So they're pretty close. So why don't we just tie them for number one? So we'll put, you know, positioning and awareness is tied for number one, and how important they are and how much you need to work on them, right? So let's just go over them one at a time. So awareness, big one is paying attention to whether or not you want to, how to, you know, paying attention to the kill feed and when you've won or lost fights, right? Paying attention to, you know, who's up, who's down, right? 1 to 2 and then 2 to 3 is an advantage, and then versus won and lost fight. Did last time did we talk about the other things that go into one, like how to tell whether or not you're winning, or do we just go over the numbers?
Well, the one thing that, like, yeah, you told me the numbers, and that's actually helped me a ton. Like, knowing, like, basically making a rule, like, no ults after it's, like, up or down 2 has changed the way I've played a lot.
Okay, so let's talk on that real briefly. So then this will just mean that we're going to this will mean that we'll speed through a little bit of the others, but just real quick, keep in mind that there are other things that go into whether or not you've won or lost a fight. That's just the numbers are the basics, right? That's why 2 is the middleman. It goes 1 to 2 and then 2 to 3 is because of the fact that that there are other things that go into it. That's why you can't really put a, like, say anytime you're down 2 people, it's a lost fight. So the other things that go into it are going to be, you know, which team has more ultimates, which team is using more ults, which team has more abilities, which team has better positioning, which team has more health, which team has better spawns, right? There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. And let's say, for example, we are down 2 people, like it's a 4v6, and yeah, we have another massive advantage. So like, let's say we have their entire team's 1 HP, right? Or let's say we have close spawns, so like it's a 2 CP map, and we have close spawns, right? That can mean that this fight's not necessarily lost, right? We may have a decent chance of winning it, right? That's because we have another massive advantage that goes along with even though we are down 2 people, it's still winnable, right? Whereas let's say we're down 2 people, yet we have no advantage at all, or in fact they also have advantages. That's where the being down 2 people is a lost fight. But being down 2 people isn't always a lost fight, so you have to pay attention to those other things as well, and then those will impact on top of the numbers of who's winning or losing, because you know you could be winning, they you know you could be technically still even when they're like, you could be still even when you're up 2 people, right? And then you could get too aggressive off of that and make a mistake, right? So like, if you, for example, like you could be up 2 people yet your entire team's 1 HP, or you're 1 HP or something like that, right? And then that'd be a situation where that's still losable yet we get too aggressive, right? So you just got to watch out for those. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, so then moving on to the rest, right? Just a bunch of other micro awareness things, paying attention to, you know, our awareness, or sort of paying attention to like where's the enemy team, where's my team, paying attention to audio cues, positioning, making sure we're rotating in between fights, make sure that we are let's see, other ones, taking high grounds more often. Use it. Big one is using cover properly, not standing out in the open, and then those are the main. And then taking off angles and on, you know, McCree and Genji, but especially in Genji, getting to their side or behind, right?
My task is
Um,
not complete.
then moving
So
on.
I
Good.
understand what my positioning, like I understand it when it sucks on McCree, but it's a lot harder for me to understand with Genji. Like, is it like when, I don't know, I feel like when I go like in for a kill or something, when I'm not thinking in the right way, like I don't know.
So yeah, with Genji, we typically want to come from the side, right? So it's the same exact thing with an off angle. We talked about off angles last time.
Yeah.
If we're coming in from the front, we have to get on top of people as Genji. When we come in from the front, they're going to have more time to shoot at us, more time to line up stuns. They're going to know that we're coming. We don't have a surprise advantage, and then we just are also going to be stuck shooting at tanks and shields. We come from the right side, right? Now we can immediately get to their back line. We can, this is coming from the side, right? We come from the right side, we get to their back line, we get past the tanks and the shields, we create a crossfire effect, so now they're confused about who to look at, Genji or the team. And then on top of that, we, where were the other ones I was saying? I can't remember. And then it basically just, helps get around all the things I was just saying. I forget what the first thing I said was on the other side. So just, it's going to help us get to them and get kills on them. It's also, yeah, it's going to give us a surprise advantage, and it's going to mean that, like, for the first, like, 2 seconds we're on top of them, they don't know where the heck we're at, right? Which means that they have a lot less time to kill us and stun us and do damage to us, right? So we want to be looking to come from angles like that rather than just from the front, because that's going to allow us to kill people easier from the side. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so continuing on, we're about to run out of time here, so we might just kind of zoom through these. But number 3 is going to be mechanics, actions per minute, and then talking actions per minute along with target priority, shooting at the right things, and just keeping up good general mechanics and practicing at that are the main ones, right? And then number 4 is going to be your ultimate usage, mainly just using it more often, right? Just make sure we're not holding on to it. And then ability usage coming in at last, mainly the Genji ones, making sure we're dashing through people to kill them, dash through open areas. So if we're trying to, get over to that side, we can deflect across, all right, like so, or we can dash across like so, right? Just to get to the other side without having to walk through it without anything. You can also just make sure we're using deflect more often, especially while we're out in the open and when there's a Widowmaker shooting at us, right? And then that is pretty much it. So any other questions?
I think that's it this time.
All right. So then let me stop the recording there.